Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to start in a few minutes. We're just going to give everyone time to join. So we're just going to hold on for a couple more minutes. If you can hear me, it might be a good idea if you guys can raise your hands. There's a feature on the webinar, just so we know. Great, perfect. So perfect. So we're just going to wait a couple more minutes to give everyone a chance to join, and then we're going to get started. There will be a recording of the webinar. I just got the question. So yes, there will be a recording of the webinar, and we're going to be sending out the webinar later in a thank you email. Okay, so I think we're going to get started. It's 3 minutes past the hour. As we go through, I'm sure people can join. Feel free to ask questions through the questions feature, and we're going to take the questions live at the end of the webinar. But just to quickly run through what we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, thank you all for joining our webinar and welcome. And we're going to talk about how to protect your modern web applications on AWS. So very quickly, no, there it is. Okay, so my name is Talia Schmidt. I head up the marketing for AllCloud in EMEA, and I will give you a brief overview about what we're going to be talking about today. We'll present the speakers and we'll go through the agenda, and then I'll moderate the Q&A at the end, so feel free to go ahead and ask questions as they run through the presentation. So who are we talking to today and what are we talking about? Nathaniel Assis will be talking about managing application security end-to-end, leveraging AWS Shield. And Neri Simkhani will be talking about secure your AWS web apps, and he will present a demo as well. These are the guys. Nathaniel from AllCloud heads up the MSP group at AllCloud, leading a group of how many people? 18 people, pretty good group. And Neri is the VP sales for Reblaze, and he'll present Reblaze a little bit later. And obviously he'll go through a demo and show you the product and all that good stuff. Okay, so Yes, today we're talking about protecting your digital assets, but what will you learn exactly? So in this webinar, you will learn from Neri and from Nathaniel, who are longtime cloud security experts, how to leverage AWS security services, what kind of best practices AWS has, and what solutions partners offer in order to protect those assets in the cloud. So everything from web application firewall to DDoS protection. It's really, really important that these processes are automated. You're using managed tools and setting those up in order to safeguard your applications that are running on AWS. Very quickly, overview of AllCloud. AllCloud is a global cloud solution provider. We have 7 operating centers. We operate HQ'd out of Tel Aviv, Israel, or really Rosh Hashanah, which is very close. We have 2 locations in Germany, in Munich and in Berlin. We have an operating center in Bucharest, and we have 3 offices in North America, and that is in Toronto, New York, and San Francisco. We are a premier AWS partner, and we have competencies in many different fields, everything from DevOps to migration, and why we're here today, security. So we're a premier partner of AWS with a security competency. And of course, we have a partnership on MSP, which is the group that Nati heads up. Pretty good group of clients with logos that we threw up here on the slides. I'm not going to get into all of them, but I think we can talk about, use cases and case studies as we go through the presentation. So I'm going to head it over to Nati, who is going to start with his presentation on managing application security end-to-end, leveraging AWS Shield. So go ahead, Nati.
Thank you, Taya. So again, I'm Nathaniel. When moving to the cloud is probably the most logical decision a business will take. I'm sure you would agree. The benefits are too long for us to go into here, but alongside these benefits, we are introduced to new vulnerabilities and attack vectors that we did not have before. Though here we'll be introducing how to protect mainly your web application, we want to be clear that it's only 1 out of 3 domains that provide you the full protection that you need when running your digital assets on AWS. In other words, it's an important part of a larger picture. The first will be your AWS account security, which mainly focuses on identity and access management program and the next generation landing zone. Disciplined organizations manage their credentials tightly, and this is mainly to protect us from ourselves as well, not just from the external sources. The second will be your perimeter and network security, which mainly focuses on protecting your edges from layer 3 and 4 volumetric attacks like DDoS. And then the third will be your web application security, which focuses on your layer 7 protection, which is usually public by nature. So maybe the most important topic to tackle when creating your security plan is your identity and access management program. Fine-grained identity and access controls ensure that right resources have the right accesses at all times. This is a topic that we found that many organizations are lacking, mainly because they don't understand the risks or just don't prioritize this. So when identity and access management is not prioritized, what happens? That's right, everybody is an admin. This might be the biggest security vulnerability there is. Every organization running in the cloud must maintain an identity and access management program, which means when creating access policies, make sure to follow security advice of least privilege or granting only permissions required to perform a task and schedule compute resources. Use temporary credentials. That's the way to go. We see many customers using static AWS credentials, and these credentials often end up somewhere in the application source control. Now throw in that everybody is an admin behavior and you got yourself a serious problem on your hands. Assume that a developer, even by an accident, pushed static keys to a public repository. You can pretty much be sure that within an hour these credentials could be exposed. We have seen incidents that IAM credentials were pushed to public repositories. Literally half an hour later, the account was breached. These bots are very efficient and you should be aware of them. The benefits, of course, for static or like temporary keys is that it prevents you from embedding long-term keys in your application code. That's a big no-no. You can provide access or temporary access to AWS resources without having to define an AWS identity for them. And of course, temporary credentials have, they have a limited lifetime, so you don't need to worry about rotating them or invoking them when they expire. Some of the worst data breaches in AWS were caused by misconfigurations of perimeter security, such as S3 or IAM credentials. Famous example is the US voter records, where personal data of about 198 million American voters were exposed. It was a big data firm, Deeproot Analytics, put personal information, voter profiling data at risk just because they started on a wide open S3 bucket. So remember, risks come from within, not just from the outside world. So protect yourself from yourself. To govern that all, the next generation landing zone is a solution that helps you more quickly set up a secure multi-account AWS environment based on AWS and AllCloud best practices. As more and more accounts are introduced to the environment, it becomes more challenging to govern them. You want to make sure that your guardrails are in place automatically. So tools like Control Tower, AWS Config, and Security Hub are some of the tools that are used to manage the landing zone. Okay, so perimeter and network security. How do we protect our perimeter? Well, AWS has been kind enough to provide us with a few services that are designed for exactly that. We're not going to go into all of them, just to name an important few. The first and foremost would be CloudFront, which is a comprehensive content delivery network. CloudFront works seamlessly with AWS Shield for DDoS mitigation. This is done on the edge location, so it is the farthest location from your origin as possible. The second would be Route 53, AWS DNS service that also needs to be protected against DNS flood attacks. It's hosted at numerous edge locations, creating global surface area that is capable of absorbing a really large amount of DNS traffic. Route 53 would use shuffle sharding. So if one name server in the delegation goes down, the client will just retry and receive a response from a name server in a different edge location. And anycast stripping, which ensures that DNS requests will arrive to their optimal location. The rest of these services like a Global Accelerator or Elemental integrate with Shield or used to manage security like Firewall Manager, but we're not going to go into them right now. A little bit about CloudFront, that's why it's so important. We recommend putting a CloudFront distribution in front of your web server, even if you don't need any caching. The reason for that is that CloudFront provides greater layer 3 and 4 protection against flood attacks like ICMP and TCP floods. AWS Edge infrastructure is built with 2 architectural layers that shield your origin from direct user access. The user's requests will begin with resolving to a local CloudFront edge, location based on lower latency. Content that is found within the cache will be immediately served back to the user, while any cache misses will first be checked against the mid-tier caching layer, the regional edge cache, before making the request to the origin. CloudFront is not working alone, right? So AWS Shield is running right alongside with it. Whether you know it or not, Shield Standard is actually built into all of AWS, and you're already leveraging this protection for all your resources just by being on AWS. Having said that, Shield Standard baselines the traffic to all AWS customers and looks for anomalies against the baseline, and of course, mitigates these anomalies with packet filtering and drops any only the most common frequently occurring infrastructure layer attacks like UDP floods and state exhaustion attacks like TCP SYN floods. So you can look at it as a common baseline on the global network, and mitigations are not specific to your application. These mitigations result in an automatic defense against the most common network and transport layer DDoS attacks for any AWS resource in any region, as well as comprehensive protection against all known network and transport layer attacks when you're using globally distributed services like Amazon CloudFront and Route 53. However, some customers need more than that. They would need protection that is baseline to their specific application. So here comes Shield Advanced. You can choose to upgrade to Shield Advanced for individual resource protection. This introduces expert level DDoS detection and mitigation capabilities without making any changes in your networking. The backend security itself is upgraded automatically. There's no changes on your side. For detection, it introduces a customer-specific anomaly detection for resources you specify and choose. AWS Shield Advanced also starts detecting volumetric layer 7 attacks only if your protected resources have an AWS WAF web ACL attached to it. Mitigations can be customized for your specific use cases with advanced mitigations like SYN throttling, for example. Now, DDoS is an evolving landscape with new vectors and attacks being discovered, like the Memcached attacks of last year. For these kind of break glass scenarios, and this might be the best thing about Shield Advanced, customers can reach out the AWS DDoS response team, the DRT, directly during an event, and with their expertise and tools, triage the attack and alleviate availability impact. Lastly, even though you are effectively protected from DDoS attacks, there are resources scaling required for protecting you and might lead to unexpected infrastructure charges. And sometimes might be a bit high. With Shield Advanced, you're reimbursed for these charges automatically. The AWS Shield Advanced dashboard, so you might find this a bit impressive. AWS Shield today detects and mitigates thousands of attacks each day, and 99.9% of those identified network attacks are mitigated within less than a minute. This dashboard is available only in Shield Advanced. All right, great. So now that we're protecting our AWS account and our perimeter network, now we will dive into the third part of our protection strategy, the web application security. AllCloud has chosen Reblaze as its partner for this type of layer 7 support, mainly because we believe that for security mitigations such as this, you do need professionals rather than holding this skill in-house. Instead of you investing in that and letting products like Reblaze handle this for you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Neri Simchoni on Reblaze.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank AllCloud for this opportunity to be here today. My name is Neri Simchoni, and I'm responsible for sales at Reblaze. So Reblaze is a cloud-based application and API security solution. As Nati mentioned, the AWS security solutions dealing with the network layer, and layers 3 and 4. And I will explain during my part of the webinar, which includes a short presentation and a live demo session, the threats on the application layer, layer 7, and how Reblaze can help. So a few words about Reblaze, founded in 2012, headquartered in Tel Aviv, support 24/7 R&D in Tel Aviv. We have sales offices in the US, in Europe, and in Singapore. We are providing the service for more than 300 customers, dealing with 30,000 web application and API, and dealing with more than 5 billion HTTPS requests daily, with a very low churn rate of 2.5% per year. Example of some of our customers from different verticals. In the e-commerce, I can mention eBay, Metro, My Supermarket, Reborns from Asia, Sodexo, Glasses USA, government organizations such as the Israeli Parliament, Israeli Aerospace Industries, Israeli Electric Company. In the travel, El Al, Fatal International Hotel Chain, Medaplaya Hotel Chain from Spain. Also in the finance sector, I can mention PAYONEER, Astopay, Checkout, two major banks in Israel, Bank Hapoalim and Union Bank, blockchain companies, Bancor, technology companies such as Cellcom, Mellanox, Allot, many SaaS companies such as Tabula, Semanage, public transportation solutions such as Moveit, Pango, Via, and the gaming industry, William Hill, TVG Networks, Paddy Power, and three major hospitals in Israel. So we have a best of practice of all these verticals. And now, when we go into the details, we are all familiar with the direct threats on web today, starting from theft of personal information such as credit cards, names, email, telephone numbers, theft of commercial information, of course, infection of the websites, downtime, and of course, degraded experience. What I can say that, what about control and visibility? Most of the solution, you don't really understand what is happening. How can you protect against something that you can't see? What about performance? You can protect, but if the website is not available or very slow, your user will not use it. Unfortunately, the future does not look so good. The threats become more complex, more sophisticated, with almost unlimited and low-cost computing resources. Applications are everywhere and allow users to do activities from anywhere and anytime. The application must be available all the time, and the bots are evolving very quickly and almost mimicking the human behavior. The current status with solution is a big mess. We can find different vendors which provide a solution for specific threats. We can see integration of several solutions, some on the cloud, some in the scrubbing centers or shared environment. Some are managed by the customer, and it's usually customer needs to update signature and policies by themselves all the time. So Reblaze vision is a fully managed and a unified web security solution that is easy to deploy and requires minimal maintenance. The service leveraging the cloud capabilities and abilities while ensuring privacy and almost zero latency. Reblaze is fully integrated within AWS with three options that the customer can choose. It can be a SaaS, pay as you go and bring your license. In the SaaS, we will provide the service, including all the infrastructure that is required. In the pay as you go and bring your own license, you can purchase the service through the marketplace of AWS. And the infrastructure of the service will be part of your own virtual private cloud, which is big benefits. Reblaze converts AWS WAF and AWS Shield into an autonomous system which reacts immediately to every type of attack and continually adapts to the ever-changing internet threats environment. It's important to mention that Reblaze deploys a unique virtual private cloud per customer that includes a load balancer, Reblaze proxies, minimum 2, because we are always deployed in a multi-zone, and a management console. Generally speaking, traffic is routed all the time through Reblaze reverse proxies, and users and traffic are monitored and analyzed in real time based on behavior analysis, human detection algorithm, mapping of dark networks. For example, we can identify real time if the user is behind the proxy or behind the Tor, the onion ring of the cloud infrastructure, and all that we can see in real time with the real-time management console. Let's go into the security layers. So those are the layers of security that are being done by Reblaze in real time. So we start with profiling, and then primary filtering and dynamic filtering and biometric behavior analysis. But Reblaze is not just a bot control. We provide a comprehensive web security solution, which includes web application firewall against all the non-OS top 10 attacks, such as SQL injection, XSS. We provide DDoS protection, both network layer and application layer. It's very important to mention, as Nati mentioned, AWS solution provide DDoS protection against DDoS attacks in the network layer. Reblaze provide also DDoS protection in the application layer, which is the more crucial area where we can see most of the attacks these days. We also provide a full API protection and access control in layer 7, which means that we can decide together with the customer which traffic to allow to which websites, which URL. For example, we can allow to the main homepage Google crawlers and Bing crawlers, but we will block this kind of scrapers and bots and all the bots, for example, from the login area. So by doing that, the ACL cleans the traffic by 80 to 90% from all the bots and scraper and unrelevant traffic, which means that the website will be most probably will serve the users much faster. And of course, we will save a lot of money because we will stop egress traffic, not relevant egress traffic to go towards the scrapers. And on top of all that, we provide a full traffic inspection in real time that I will show in the demo in a few minutes. If we'll go through additional benefits, so we provide a unique VPC per customer. The VPC, as I mentioned, can be allocated as close as possible to the origin servers of the users. We provide full traffic inspection. It's a full managed solution. So it means that we will do the installation, the ongoing maintenance, and of course, 24/7 support. It's a very flexible and adaptive, very easy to set up new website or URL in few seconds. Of course, it's a low-cost all-in-one solution. We can combine here a solution that provide WAF, DDoS, bot management, and other solution, and of course, maximum privacy. Of course, we are fully compliant with all the required certification. When we are running on AWS, we use their certification for the servers and the environment, and we are ourselves PCI compliance, ISO 27001 and SOC 2, and of course, you can try it very easily with a try and buy of 30 days. If you are satisfied, you will pay from the first day, but if you are not satisfied, you can terminate the agreement with no charge. There is no obligation for long-term contract, so it's very easy to try. I will go now very quickly on few case studies, and then we will move forward to our live demo session. So this is the case study of PAYONEER, which is the largest payment solution company. It operates in more than 200 nations. We deploy Reblaze within 3 regions and in multi-cloud vendor. Of course, PAYONEER is a target of frequent attacks on a daily basis. I can also mention eBay. As we said, there are many threats out there. One of them, of course, is that our competitors are collecting data using web crawlers and used it against us. And on top of that, we are paying this outbound traffic. So when you are using Reblaze, we will make sure that only legitimate traffic will go through your origin servers. Also, I can mention Ribbons, which is another e-commerce platform with 6 regions in Asia, and they are also our customer. I will move now to our live demo session, which I think is the most interesting part of this session. Okay, so just a minute.
Just bear with us for a second as we have technical difficulties transferring to the demo. The joys of live webinar. Here we go.
Okay, thank you very much for your patience. So this is a Reblaze dashboard. Each customer gets his own dashboard, of course. In the dashboard, we can see in real time all the traffic, the blocked and the not blocked one. We can see here, down here, you will see your URLs, subdomains, APIs. You can go back in time by the second, up to 3 months due to GDPR regulation. Of course, in specific cases, we can hold the logs for a longer period of time. In this window, we can see now 30 minutes logs. We can see easily all the traffic, all the hits, all the bot mitigation challenges, all the blocked event in red. We can see very quickly if there is an area of attack, we can drill down by the second and investigate on the spot events that looks suspicious. If we will go to the response status, one of the big benefits of the solution is that we can see not only block event, but also legitimate events. And we can see all the error codes. For example, response status 503, 400. So most of our customers are using these abilities in order to do debugging of their application. We can see request count. We can see bandwidth, and of course, latency. So the days that you think that there is a latency of your web application are over, because in 1 second you can see if there is latency and what is the source. I will show you that immediately. We can see in the application area, for each application, we can see how many hits, how many are blocked, how many are human, how many are bots, how many got the bot mitigation challenge, how many reach us from a cloud infrastructure or for behind anonymous proxies. We can also see the top countries, also the top IP addresses. And one of the big advantages that I can see in 1 second, the most, where I can see where are the most attacks coming from. And this is the view log of the system. In the view log, I can see each request and request, a lot of information, starting from that it was a GET, HTTP, it got 403, it reached us from Israel. The reason why it was blocked, we can see the browsers, we can see the latency. In this case, we can see only Reblaze proxy latency because it was blocked event. I will show you how look event that passed to the origin servers. We can see also more details of usually the full body and the header of each request and request. So you understand that in real time, we can understand exactly what is the attacker is trying to do. And of course, most of the cases we will block it automatically, but we can interfere manually if there is any need, of course. If we will go back to the dashboard, we can see very quickly Also, top sessions and top target URL. And this is very important. We can see all our URLs. You can see, for example, the login, how many events we got to the login. One of the big advantage, we can see a latency event. So I can go and see that this URL took 2 milliseconds to upload. It means that if it's too slow, the QA and DevOps team can go and drill down and double click on it. We'll go to the view log and we'll see all the events for this specific URL and investigate the case. So if, as you understand, our solution is not only security, but also allow to manage and to monitor your application in real time. We can see, of course, signatures. This is the area where we'll see the top reasons why the WAF block any kind of events. For example, SQL injection that we can see here. We can see XSS. And again, each double click, you will go into the view log and really see all the events that was blocked because of that reason. If we will continue, we can see also top referrals, top extensions, top browsers. This is very important because we can see here the user agent. And if we see suspicious user agent, we can investigate and understand what he's trying to do. We will see the top companies that access our URLs and, very important, the latency of each URL. I will go again to the view log because I promise you to go through a legitimate event. So let's find one. I want to show you the information that you can see. The 200 event is meaning it passed. And as I said, in this case, we can see the latency of the origin servers. So the days that there is latency and we don't know if the problem is our network or our servers or any other reason are over, because in real time, we can see how much time took Reblaze servers to handle the request, and then how much time to get the answer from the origin server. So it's very, very important. And of course, as I mentioned before, each request and request, you can see the full body and header. So there is a lot of information. Double click, we can easily double click and see all the logs for this specific request, and of course, other information. If we'll go now to the security policies, we can see here the DDoS and anti-scraping settings. We can see, for example, timeouts. This is, again, a slow loris. In this kind of attack, we will request the origin server many requests, but will not end the session, and it will not be able to provide this information, so we can block this kind of attacks. We can see different kind of sizing limits, and of course, a very simple speed and rate limitation, such as IP request. If there will be more than 40 requests per IP, it will be blocked, etc. More sophisticated rules are the dynamic rules. In these dynamic rules, we can block events by many parameters. For example, I can block here by IP, or by request header, or by user agent. And for example, if a specific IP address will do more than 30 requests per minute, it can be blocked for 1 hour or for unlimited time, etc. It can be in a ban mode or in a simulation or report only, which means that I can go to the quarantine area and I will see here all the ban lists and the simulation ban list. So if we are not sure about a rule, we will start with a simulation, and then we will make sure that it's working well, and then we will move it to the ban list. It's very important to mention that one of the big challenges of web application firewall and security solution for websites and web application is the false positive ratio. As you can see, within Reblaze, we can see everything in real time, so we don't have any issues striking the security policies and not afraid from any false positive event, because you can see that immediately by the second. I will go forward to our profiles. So as I mentioned, the ACL, the access control in layer 7, we can allow access or block access for specific crawlers or IP. For example, we can allow Baidu crawlers, Bing crawlers, Google crawlers, and on the other end, we can deny VPN providers or allow, for example, bot or Tor, etc. I will show you how quickly it is to create a new ACL policy. So I want to deny country, for example, Afghanistan. I would like to allow company PayPal. Okay. And I would like to bypass your internal IP address. So this IP will not be changed. So this is a ACL policy that I created in 1 second. We can attach this policy to one URL or all the URLs. By doing that, as I said before, we can clean the traffic from scraper, bots, not relevant traffic by 80 to 90%. We will continue. This is the web application firewall, very easy to maintain, very straightforward, protect against all the non-host top 10 attacks. We have a very strong tool that called custom signature, which means that we can create rule that, for example, we will look at the header names, and if we will find this argument, and in the request header we'll find this value, only this request will go through or will be blocked. So this is a very powerful tool that we can use. Generally speaking about managing the web proxy, we can be your global load balancer very easily. I'm adding another origin servers, and I can do round robin and waits. And of course, it can be is down or backup very, very easily. We can manage also the cache, the CDN, through here, and this is the security profile. So one of the big benefits that I mentioned in almost my first slides, that the vision of the company is to provide a solution that's very strict, but it's very easy to install and very easy to maintain. And this is the point, that we are managing a very complicated security solution for website and web application with most of the time something like 8 to 10 rules compared to tens or hundreds of rules in other solutions in the market. Of course, we are dealing also with HTTPS traffic. We will upload the SSL certificates in this area. And just one more thing, we start a project in a report mode only. When we are start a project, we will start with a report mode. And then when we are ready to move to active, we just push the button to active and just push the publish changes button, and it's all ready to active blocking activity. We work with API, of course, so you don't need to access the management console, and you can get all what you need through an API, very simple. So I finish the demo session. We will continue with the question and answers.
So thank you, Neri, so much for that. I think we do have questions waiting, right? Okay, so let's see here. Everyone loved your demo. So the first question is, does Reblaze have a false positive alert rate?
Okay, so there is no alert for false positive because in the end of the day, each website, API, or web application is acting differently. And we are a managed service. We are working very closely with our customers during the installation. Of course, the best way with complex websites and web application is to create a staging environment where we can learn the application, and then together with the customer and his requirements to decide how to handle each request and request.
Thank you for that. So one more question. You mentioned, and maybe Naki, you want to take this one, but you mentioned that AllCloud and Reblaze are already working together. Can you give examples of a joint client or project or things that you worked on together?
Well, I think we've been working together for about 2 years already, like that. Public examples would be LivePerson, would be Pongo, the Metro HD, huge customer out of Germany.
What do they do?
They're in
E-commerce.
e-commerce. We have like 3 more examples which you can't really stick here. But yeah, we have both architectures, whether it's fully managed and we have an architecture where the gateways are running in our environment. Both work perfectly fine.
Anything to add? Okay, so a question for Reblaze. You mentioned biometric. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes, of course. So one of the big advantages of the solution is that most of our protection shield is due to behavior analysis. So we have a special SDK for mobile devices where we can, in real time, allocate information if the mobile device is moving, the way that the user is using his mobile device, and of course, if he's not passing our challenge, it will not be a human, and then we can handle it as a not human user. On top of that, we are using a bot mitigation challenge for browsers. It's a JavaScript that the user need to pass. Of course, it's transparency to the users. He doesn't need to do anything. It's not like a CAPTCHA, but it's allocate again a lot of information about his mouse moves, keyboards, and other proprietary information that we allocate. And again, this gives us the ability to decide what kind of user to allow them access and which ones no.
Thank you for that answer. I think we're almost out of time. Any last comments, thoughts, guys?
I think maybe the only thing I would like to state again is that, obviously we want to protect our environment from all these malicious bots from the outside, and there are a lot of risk factors coming in, a lot of attack vectors. But don't forget to protect yourself well from how you allocate credentials into your environments and how you manage resources and who has access to what, because trouble can come from within. Undisciplined organizations would definitely fall into that pit if they don't prioritize that.
So you've seen that as a group leader for the managed services?
Yes.
Your clients, like you come into a project and you're like, oh my God.
It happens. It happens a lot.
Okay.
Just to say that it just was a taste, and they will be very happy to answer more depth questions. Of course, we can do more in-depth sessions with any customer that are looking for more information, understand more our service.
Perfect. So I guess just as a last note, if there are any further questions, if you do want to talk to an expert, either Nati or Neri, then do reach out. We will be following up with more. In addition to the recording of the webinar, we're going to be following up with more content regarding securing your digital assets, protecting your digital assets. So there'll be blog posts and more to come. So stay tuned and reach out if you have any needs